As yesterday we started the Advent season. November 30th is a started Advent. Advent looking forward to the coming, to Christ's first coming. Obviously, Christ already came, but we're kind of celebrating that during this Christmas season. And so we're leading up to all of those Sundays until Christmas Day. And before we dive down deep into the Christmas season and just think about everything Christmas, I wanted to give one last Thanksgiving message, Thanksgiving devotional. And I was reminded of Luke 17. Often Luke 17 is the passage that I look at concerning giving thanks. And it talks about when Jesus, when he was on his last way down to Jerusalem, before he was going to be crucified, he happened to come into an area where there was a mix of both Samaritans and Jews together. Samaritans being, half-breeds, as it were. They were Jewish and Babylonian at the same time, so they weren't full-blood Jews. And so it happened to be that there were a mix of Jewish people and Samaritans together, and within that group, there's a group of 10 that we see here in Luke 17 that were lepers. Lepers, knowing if you've studied the Old Testament or the Gospels and other places in the Bible, leprosy was an awful disease. And not only was it life-threatening, it was also socially ending. If you had leprosy, you could not be a part of community. You could not even work for yourself. You couldn't provide for yourself. You were dependent upon others, again, from a distance, being unclean. You'd have to be dependent on people's alms and their giving for food and so forth. And so these 10 lepers, they were coming up to Jesus, wanting to be healed from Jesus, from their leprosy. And Jesus, wanted to give them a test of faith and just said, okay, I'm not going to directly heal you right now. Turn back to the priest, and as you go back, you will be healed. And you know the story. As they turned back, as they were going towards the priest, all 10 of them were healed. But were all 10 of them really healed? Because if we read that story in Luke 17, there was one. And the one that we wouldn't expect. The one that was a Samaritan, the one who wasn't even a full-blooded Jew. He was the only one who didn't just go about his business, go back into society, just got what he wanted to get from God and go on with his life. No, he turned around. And as he turned around, he came to Jesus and he fell down on his face, prostrate before Jesus, giving him thanks for his healing. And this man, this leper, this one who was once a leper, now healed, Jesus told him, your faith has made you well, or better, your faith has sozoed. It has saved you. And part of being saved, part of the fruit of salvation, part of you showing that you're a Christian, that God is working in you, is you give thanks. That is a mark of a Christian, of a believer. And I think it is interesting, as I gave this lesson before to a group of men. There was one man in the group, when he listened to this Bible studies, we had this conversation about this. He said, I just can't believe it. I can't believe that the other 9 didn't stop and give thanks to God for what he has done. And, we can look at the other 9 and say, wow, I can't believe it. But how often are we like the other 9? How often does God do something for us and we just kind of go about our business like nothing ever happened? Or even if we have a moment of giving thanks, we often just forget about it later on down the road and just go on with our life. I want to encourage you especially as we're looking in light of the Christmas season. Let's be like that Samaritan leper. When God does something in our life, because that is what Thanksgiving is. Praise is honoring God for who he is. Thanksgiving is honoring God for what he has done. May we stop, remember, and reflect, not just one day a year, but often. And as Paul encouraged us and exhorted us in Thessalonians, to give thanks in all circumstances, not for all things, but in every situation of life. Because as we do so, we'll be content with what God has done for us and grateful for what God is doing in our lives. So again, I want to encourage you, what type of leper are you? Are you like the other 9, or like the Samaritan leper who turned around and gave thanks? Thank you for joining me.